Hi there, thanks for tuning in to Fuel Your Wellness. My name is Ashley. I'm a registered dietitian and mom of 2 toddlers. I help individuals build self-trust, confidence, and establish habits that they can take through their lifetime, especially in those really challenging times like motherhood and menopause. I also like to help individuals ditch medications if that aligns with their lifestyle, or even just reduce them or just educate them about them. And so today we're going to be talking about some medications that are buzzing in the news and the media, which are things like Mounjaro, Wegovy, and Ozempic, classified as GLP-1s. So whether you're taking a GLP-1, you're looking to, or you're just interested in learning about it, today's episode is for you. The great thing about nutrition is our bodies know how to do a lot of things on their own, right? They can do a lot of different systems, and there are these built-in systems that our body just naturally knows how to do. And one of those things is GLP-1. That is a hormone in our body. And the way that these medications work is they mimic this hormone called GLP-1. And what that hormone does is it helps manage blood sugars, it helps us feel satiated, and that happens by helping. The way it works is that it slows gastric emptying, which means essentially it helps to make this food go from the stomach into the intestines a little bit more slowly to keep us feeling fuller for longer. And so our body knows how to do this, like I said, and so I'm going to kind of share with you today how we can support more production of that through food. And food doesn't replace medications, right? It can support them though. And so even if you are taking a GLP-1 already, this can be really helpful for you as well. And I think the other thing to know is that GLP-1s can also help with a GLP-1 hormone can help with so many other things. And these foods I'm going to share with you can help with so many other benefits. So I'm going to share 5 food categories, I like to call them, because they're not food groups necessarily. They're not like the classic food groups you think of in the food pyramid or my plate. There's something a little bit different that we'll learn a little bit more about today as we go through. So the first food category is fiber. And I always like to say, fiber is probably one of the most important things we can consume. And we can all find at least 5 foods that contain fiber that we like, right? Probably a lot more than that. And if you take nothing else from today's episode, I hope it's that you learn to eat more fiber. Whatever stage you are in life, whatever your goal is for your health, I hope that you increase fiber. And so we're going to talk a little bit about it now. Fiber is essentially food for your gut bacteria. So I always say this, it's kind of silly, maybe it's because I'm a mom, but think of your healthy gut bacteria as a pet, and fiber is the food that you feed your pet with. And if you don't eat enough fiber, you don't have good gut bacteria. It becomes, less healthy gut bacteria. You always have bacteria in there, but you might have less, and it might not be as healthy to keep you healthier and, healthier immune system, healthier even mental health as well. Connects with every system in the body. So that is important. And the other thing about fiber is essentially the fiber gets digested by the gut bacteria. And when that happens, it helps produce GLP-1. So that's how fiber works to increase GLP-1 production. And fiber is in things like beans, lentils, green leafy vegetables, fruits, which I think fruit's a great place to start if you don't love a lot of plant-based foods. Fruit is always a great place because most people enjoy fruit already. Nuts, seeds, these are also great options as well. So lots of options that you can incorporate if you aren't already incorporating these. And it, again, just to note, blood sugar is also something that these medications help with in addition to weight management. So I think if these are your goal, increase fiber, but also fiber can help with so many other things, including managing other hormones, not just GLP-1. So my second food category would be resistant starch. It sounds a little bit complicated, but we're going to break it down for you so that it's a little bit more manageable. So resistant starch, think of it like a carbohydrate, a type of carbohydrate that doesn't get digested by the small intestine. And instead, it gets digested by that gut bacteria and it's fermented. So that's how it helps to produce more GLP-1. And a little bit different than just fiber itself. These are specific types of foods, beans included again. So you're going to hear beans a lot today. So if anything, add some beans to the mix if you don't already. But also things like whole grains such as oats, brown rice, quinoa, farro, barley, millet. Some things you might already incorporate, maybe not yet. And again, it's just all about repetition. Hearing these things over and over, you're eventually going to want to incorporate more. Green bananas, maybe not as popular, but maybe an option you might want to try. And then two really kind of cool things that are in this category are cooked and cooled rice and cooked and cooled potatoes. And so you might be thinking, how am I going to use that? Well, potato salad is a great option, especially right now it's summertime. So that's a really nice option, a cold option. And you can add some more vegetables in there to really boost the benefit of it. And then think of making some meal prep, right? You might add some brown rice into the mix for meal prep. And so if you have some, you can eat that, maybe not right out of the fridge, but leave it out for a little bit, still in a safe temperature zone, of course. And that's a great way to add more GLP-1 producing foods into the mix. So pretty simple things. You might like some of those, you might not. If you haven't tried some of those, try those, and that could help you. The very unsurprising next category is protein. Everyone, hears about protein. Every recipe you see online, you're trying to get more protein in as much as possible. And that is really powerful. And I think what is even more powerful and important to note is that protein earlier on in the day can help with increasing satiation hormones. So think of breakfast, of course. Even if it's not breakfast, it could be a snack. Savory options tend to have a little bit more. It doesn't have to be that though. It could be things like Greek yogurt and cottage cheese, or it could be eggs, or if you don't do animal products, you could do tempeh or tofu scramble. Lots of different choices here, but incorporating that into breakfast or just in the morning in general can be really helpful. I have a lot of clients who come to me and they don't start by eating breakfast. They don't eat breakfast usually, and then when they start, it's so rewarding to see that they notice changes in their body. They don't have as much, of that really intense hunger cravings in the afternoon or even in the morning. They're not thinking about food all morning. These are such powerful wins, in my opinion, and that can just happen by simply adding in a little extra protein for a morning snack or for breakfast. Now, the fourth category is fiber-filled fats. The reason I call it this instead of healthy fats is that healthy is a term that could be very broad or just vague, and I think all of us have a different definition of healthy. So I'm going to break it down in the way that I like to explain it, which is pretty much every food group or category of food is labeled as either good, better, or best. There's no bad foods, right? It's just good, better, or best. So good sources of fat might look like mayonnaise and cheese and maybe butter, right? Those could be categorized as good. And then we have better, which might be olive oil and salmon. And then best would be things like avocado, nuts, seeds, like peanut butter, almond butter, sun butter, tahini, if you're familiar. Those are some really great fiber-filled fats. And again, if you haven't noticed already, a lot of these are dipping into many different categories. And that's the great thing, because if you keep hearing it over and over, you know that it's a really powerful food to incorporate. Things like nuts, seeds can be added into snacks or breakfasts really easily. Avocado, I think that can sometimes be tough for people. If you don't like it, it's hard to start incorporating it, but I always find ways for people to incorporate it in ways they like even chocolate, I call it, which is like kind of like a mousse made with avocado. So if you don't like avocado as is, there is really, truly always a way to incorporate it in a way that you like. And I think this is usually the missing piece for a lot of people, is that they start by incorporating these healthy food groups and more balanced meals with complex carbohydrates, protein, fruits and vegetables, but they forget the fiber-filled fat. And what happens when you do that is you're feeling full right after a meal and you're feeling great about it, but then shortly after that, you're feeling hungry again. And that's because the fiber-filled fat is missing. So again, it doesn't have to be where you're eating fiber-filled fat at every meal. It could be mayo sometimes, it could be cheese sometimes, it could be butter sometimes. It's not that you have to be perfect or have every single food or meal be the perfect balance, but it's just about building as much of those well-balanced, nourishing, high-fiber meals as possible. So for everyone, it looks different for everyone. Now, the final category is color. And that is something we might just think of fruits and vegetables, which that is definitely the case. So things like berries and dark leafy greens are in particular in this category, but also other foods that have compounds called polyphenols, like green tea. If you like green tea, that's a great one to incorporate, or cacao. I talked about, like the chocolate already. That's a great way to incorporate it. And these have polyphenols, which are essentially like an antioxidant, and that can boost GLP-1 production in your body. So kind of going through some of these, let's see, green tea. We could incorporate that at breakfast time. I don't recommend it on an empty stomach because, it definitely has some effects that aren't the best on an empty stomach, just like coffee. Just like medications, lots of things we shouldn't do on an empty stomach, sometimes vitamins even. So I would definitely have that in the morning with your breakfast. Something at lunch you might be able to incorporate that has a lot of color, that has these polyphenols and antioxidants, are dark leafy greens, maybe in a salad, or maybe you incorporate them to your dinner sauteed, with the rest of your meal. That's a great way. And then berries, maybe alongside some chia pudding that has some cocoa powder in it, cacao. That could incorporate all of these in just one day. And again, notice that some of these are overlapping. We're adding in some of the berries, we're adding in some of the seeds that are in the other category, the fiber-filled fats in the fiber category. So there's lots of ways to incorporate many of these in just one day that can be enjoyable for you. And so really the takeaway today is I really want you to focus on, instead of focusing on one food, there's not one food that's going to change it all for you, right? You have to change your lifestyle, and that includes changing one thing at a time. So you definitely could focus on one food at first, but it's always about building balance and really these four things. So fiber containing carbohydrates, fiber containing fats, and fiber containing fruits and veggies, as well as protein. So sometimes protein, if you're plant-based like I am, that also has fiber in it too. So those beans, lentils, those are also sources of fiber that you can incorporate, but they're also in the other food groups. So it's really nice to see more plants being added for lots of reasons, but one reason being even to improve your GLP-1 production naturally in your body. And I always want to remind everyone, nutrition is not something that competes with medication. It's something that can support it if you are taking it. It's something that can just really improve your overall health. I always tell people, like, even if you hear this episode and you are thinking, well, I'm not really interested in learning about GLP-1s, or I don't know anything about them, or I'm even if you're on one, if you're not on one, you can benefit from these foods because in addition to improving blood sugar management, weight management, it also helps with cholesterol levels, triglyceride levels, managing other hormones in your bodies, fueling for fitness. There's so many ways we can use these foods as medicine, and I love food as medicine. It's not the only form of medicine, and it's definitely can be used alongside medication, but I think the two of them together, at least knowing about them and educating yourself, can be extremely powerful for your health. So I hope you can take something from today's episode, apply it. So think about all those 5 categories. Think about which of those things stood out to you as something maybe you want to try, you're hesitant to try, or you're just interested in learning about, and try that first, start there, and then start with a second group and then a third group, and in no time you're going to be adding all of these things into your regular routine. So I hope you can apply these things. Thank you for tuning in to Fuel Your Wellness. I will see you next time.